Hey YouTube, I had mentioned in my last video that I had to make something for my son's pack meeting tonight. So, of course I searched Pinterest because I have this cookie dough recipe. It's just like a cookie dough mix that you make yourself, and I've been using that way too much lately. So everyone has had it and everyone's like, could you make anything else? So I had to make something. I decided I want to make something a little bit different. So I looked on Pinterest and I found these cookie dough they're like cookie dough cake pops, so there's no eggs in the cookie dough. So if you like to eat cookie dough but you don't want to eat it because of the eggs, there's no eggs in it. So you make the cookie dough and then you dip it in chocolate and you put it on a cake pop. Well, my kids used all of my popsicle sticks to make those exploding triangles. So yeah, if you have boys, you know what I mean. So they made those like, oh, they have a name, I can't remember, but they're like ninja stars and they explode when you throw them. So I have no popsicle sticks except for the colored ones, and I was afraid those would bleed into the cookie dough. So I'm actually going to make these into cookie dough truffles. And I thought, since I've never done it before, I will just go ahead and film it and we'll see how it turns out. And I'll post the recipe and everything below. And so if it turns out. If it doesn't turn out, then you probably don't want the recipe. But anyway, I will film this. I've got two little helpers. They'll be in and out during this, and my big boys will probably be coming in while we're doing this. I have about 2 hours to get this whole thing done and get everybody fed and get my son off to Boy Scouts. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, so the first thing you were supposed to have is 1 cup of butter at room temperature. Well, my butter was not at room temperature. It was cold because I wasn't expecting to do this because I totally forgot. So I just went ahead and creamed it hardcore in my like heavy-duty KitchenAid here. And I've talked about my KitchenAid in other videos. I am totally in love with it. And it's too bad my mother-in-law can't see these videos because I've got too much stuff about pregnancy and trying to conceive on there that I don't really want her to be involved in, because she would know how much I absolutely adore this Mother's Day gift that she got me several years ago. So anyway, so I just went ahead and creamed it. And once you cream it, like, it doesn't really matter if it's at room temperature if you cream it with a heavy-duty mixer, and it all works out just fine. So I creamed that, and I went ahead and did it so that I could spare you guys the watching. Okay, in here I have 3/4 cups of brown sugar, and it's just like any old cookie recipe. Let me see if I can pour this in here. Just like any old cookie recipe where you cream, you know, you always cream the butter and the sugar. So I have 3/4 cups brown sugar and 3/4 cup white sugar, and we are going to cream that together. So if I had a more high-speed setup, I'd be able to switch back and forth to me talking and the food, but I'm not that high speed. So, okay, so we're going to cream those together. So I've got the butter and sugar creamed. This is my little 4-year-old helper that is in here, but isn't probably being as helpful as he could be. But okay, so let me show you. We've got this all creamed together, and while it was creaming, I went ahead and measured a teaspoon of vanilla. Okay, I didn't really measure it. I actually used the cap because those are almost always about a teaspoon. And then I have 1/3 cup of milk, which my little helper is going to add for me. And yes, thank you, sir. And we're going to go ahead and mix that up. So just proof that you can do this with kids sometimes. Alright, and now we're going to add the dry ingredients. Okay, so here I have 2½ cups of flour pre-measured, and I'm going to go ahead and dump that in. And then my sweet helper here, right there, is holding, and he already dumped it in, it was a teaspoon of salt and 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. So we're going to go ahead and mix that in. Little impromptu cookie dough truffles going on here. Going to impress and wow everybody. Hopefully. So we're going to mix this into some yummy, yummy cookie dough. I'm looking at the recipe because this is not looking very moist. So I was looking over to see to make sure we had everything in there that was wet. So it took about 30 seconds for it to kind of become kind of incorporated to the point where it actually looked like cookie dough, and it looks pretty good. And we are going to add in, well, actually my little helper is going to add in 1 cup of chocolate chips. Now in the recipe it says mini chocolate chips, but I don't have mini chocolate chips, so we're going to use regular chocolate chips, and people are just going to be joyful that they're getting big bites of chocolate. So here we go. gonna mix those in. I already have two little mouths standing by, anxious to try this eggless cookie dough. Okay, so this is what it looks like. It's all done. The chocolate chips are mixed in, and I'm ready to make it into 1-inch balls. Now the recipe says use a cookie scoop, which I used to have, or a melon baller, which I also used to have, but they met a tragic death, and I know I refer to this a lot, but I have 4 boys, and although they are amazing and I love them so incredibly much, they are hard on things, and there are often things that you don't think about that you realize that they did some sort of experiment with. So anyway, I no longer can't even remember what happened to the cookie dough thing, but I don't have one anymore. I think it just got played. I don't think it was a big deal. I think they just played house with it or something, and then I never got it back. So, all right, I'm about to roll this into what I am going to guesstimate is a 1-inch ball. Okay, so I lined a cookie sheet with wax paper, and I rolled out some balls. There's 28 balls on here, and I'm about to stick them in the freezer. Now, interestingly, I was worried this wouldn't be enough. I have still probably enough cookie dough in here to do another maybe 20. So I'm going to do a second cookie sheet, but I'm going to go ahead and get these in the freezer so when I'm done with these other ones, I can already start dipping them in chocolate. And let me just tell you, I wouldn't recommend this to anybody. Like, don't try a new recipe on a night when you're actually kind of pressed to take something. Unless this turns out really good, and then I'm going to be like, oh, that was a genius plan. But really, it's kind of a dumb plan. So I couldn't have done that again if I tried. Guessed that I would have about 20 more. I had exactly 20 more. So there's 20, and then did I say there were 28 on the other? So 48 altogether. So I'm going to have plenty. I think I only needed 30. So by the time my kids sample them, my husband samples them, and it's always good to have a couple extra. So yeah, hopefully these will work out. So far my kids approve of the dough. I'm on Nutrisystem, so I couldn't try the dough. My kids approve of the dough, and I'm going to roll them. I'm going to dip them in chocolate, and we'll see how they turn out. Okay, so my plan is to, because when I've made cake pops before, sometimes they have kind of an ugly bottom when you let them sit. They kind of get that flat bottom. So my plan is to make them look pretty by putting them into these little cups so that they actually look like individual like truffles. So we will see how that goes. Okay, so I've done a few, and I've realized that the chocolate is coming out really thick, but at this point I don't have time to go get any of the those Wilton melts, so I am just using melted chocolate chips, and I just melted these in the microwave, and then I am just taking one of these frozen or semi-frozen cake balls, throwing it in there, and you don't have to leave these frozen. You don't serve them frozen, but when they're frozen, the chocolate freezes on a lot faster, and they hold their shape a lot better when they're rolling around in there than they would if they were just kind of soft, mushy cake balls. So I rolled that around in there, and then I'm just going to put it back on here, and I have a naked spot right there, so I'm just going to cover it up a little bit, and I'm going to proceed to do this for about 30 more cake balls. Okay, so this is 28 that I finished. It took me about 15 minutes, but that is also with my oldest kids getting home. There's homework going on in the background. My 2 youngest ones are having a party or something downstairs. My husband's helping with homework, and that is so hot, by the way. But anyway, I am going to put these in the fridge and get the other ones out. The only reason I'm going to put them in the fridge is so the chocolate can harden just a tiny bit so I can put them in their little wrappers to make them look pretty. Okay, so this is the final product, and I have it in... I just put it in these little wrappers. That actually makes them look really pretty. My lighting in my kitchen is terrible, so sorry that everything looks like it was made in the 70s. And then I cut one open for you guys to see. So that is what they look like on the inside, and I think they're going to be really good. All in all, I would say it took me about an hour and a half, and it was a little more labor intensive than I maybe should have done when I had all my kids home. But I still think it's kind of a nice little thing. It was no bake, and it's kind of something special. I usually use a cookie mix for my last minute things, and I have done it so much lately that I was almost forced to do a little something different. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and please give it a thumbs up if you did. Please don't give it a thumbs down if you didn't. And I guess that's it. Have a great day, YouTube. So this is what it looks like. I have them all, so I showed you the inside, I showed you kind of the done product, but this is actually them all lined up and ready to go to Boy Scouts. So it's a good amount, and I still had some left over. So we decided to do, tomorrow's my boys' last day of school for the Thanksgiving break, so we decided to just do some little treats for their teachers. So as soon as I get those completely printed off and made up, that's how we're going to use the extra ones, and I will show you those. Okay, so this is the final thing. My kids are jumping off the stairs. I'm getting ready to put them to bed. My son is at Boy Scouts already. Oh my goodness, craziness. And I just wanted to show you what I did for their teachers. I had the boys help me put them together. I had some extra candy corns, and I just put them in a little bag, and I printed off this free printable. This says Happy Thanksgiving. It's supposed to be a bag topper, but I thought it looked cuter, like tied with ribbon than folded over, just because of the kind of treat it was. And so it didn't look so empty. I just put some extra candy corns that we had in there, and then on the inside, I just put from Jacob, since it was, that's my oldest son. I just put that so that it was from, because obviously then it looked a little strange because it was supposed to just fold over the top of the bag. But anyway, that's what we did with the leftover truffles, so that boys can take them to school tomorrow and give them to their teachers. So, okay, now I really am ending this video. So thanks for watching, and have a great day and a happy Thanksgiving.